research against GM, in regard to GM, is split between that says that there's no demand and that which raises a lot of questions about it. Guess which one gets the funding from big companies? Liz has already talked about the, I'll go quickly through that GM is engineered to withstand chemicals. That's the main GM developments. The weeds become resistant, so more chemicals are required. I have spoken to meetings where people have said to me, I don't mind eating GM, but then I point out to them that eating GM means that the food is laden with chemicals, because the chemicals can be laid right on it more and more, because the GM engineering is to make them resistant to the chemicals that kill the weeds. The Roundup is now being used at what Monsanto previously called extreme levels. That's what it's up to. As Liz said, the US recently approved 2 Agent Orange components. Agent Orange that destroyed the foliage in Vietnam in the war there and has caused birth defects ever since, 2,4-D and dicamba. But these are not broad spectrum herbicides, so you have that, you finish up with a cocktail of Roundup and those all together. And so as the plant resistance spreads and reproduces, as plants do, we'll be eating, not us hopefully, but those people eating GM will be eating extreme levels of all those chemicals. There's an argument to watch out for that if we're eating GM-fed animal products, what's the problem? We're halfway there. And most of the supermarkets are selling GM food, GM-fed animal products, right? So, don't accept it. Get onto the manager of the supermarket, write to the supermarkets and say that you don't want GM-fed animal products. The WTO is there in the background, the World Trade Organization. Its purpose is to be against non-tariff barriers like people banning GM. It's always pro-GM, and it will be used as a reference point in TTIP for sure. There's a recent publication by a guy called Steve Drucker, a big book, a big work, but where he's talking about not just the dodgy science on GM, but very much about the corruption of scientists and the corruption of politicians that have allowed GM to have the hold that it has in the US. I'll just say where we're up to with TTIP at the moment. This is quite an important point because, so this is the agreement itself. In the US, the President seeks what's called Fast Track from the Congress, and this is just in the Congress at the moment. Trade agreements have only ever gone through in the US when the President has had Trade Promotion Authority or Fast Track, because then trade agreements go through the Congress, both houses of the Congress, with only an up and down vote and no amendments. So Obama is seeking this from the Congress at the moment. Hopefully he won't get it. I just point out that up and down vote that they get as a special condition when they have fast track in the US is the situation that we have all the time with the European Parliament. They only ever get the up and down vote like that on trade agreements with no amendments. So that's we're at a key point with fast track at the moment. And the other thing that's going on, there's a vote coming up on the 10th of June in the European Parliament on TTIP. It's not a binding vote, it's an indicative vote, but it will be an indication of where MEPs stand. So that's one we can do something about by lobbying MPs. Tell them you do not want TTIP. It will be a vote on the 10th. So I just want to finally just say again that I had the luck to meet the key people in those protests around 2000 and stay with them for a bit in Manchester. They were a group of people living communally with just a big tub of rice and a big tub of beans and working at it all hours of the day. And they got the whole genetic snowball and all sort of like really straight organisations and everyone into that resistance of GM, and that's what it takes really. So to honour their stuff and think that we need to pick up on it again now.